Though there have been many animals that man has domesticated through history, cows and other cattle, sheep, goats, birds, horses, all manner of beasts that could be used, oxen and things of that nature. Also, the main or important one that we have is dogs. Dogs are known as man's best friend and have been for longer than recorded history. Dogs are said to have come from primordial wolves, and inbreeding and line breeding, crossbreeding, and regional differences started to make separate breeds happen out of dogs. And then over time, selectively breeding with those, getting the traits that you do want and ones that are naturally adaptive to your location, i.e., long haired for up into the mountains and short haired for being down in the valleys and in the warmer areas. And so here we see a depiction that whenever I was a child was told it was caveman art. And now, after 35 plus years of study, I figured out that this is not caveman art. It's primitive art, but it's from a time whenever people were domesticating the dogs already and utilizing them in hunts. And if you look at the man over here, he is wearing a skirt type of outfit. His legs are in an odd position. It's not really correct. I mean, he's like kicked out like a Hitler duck kick or something, but he seems to have a long spear and a shorter spear, or perhaps even a sword or something along that line. But metallurgy wouldn't be around at this time, so this may be some type of more blunt weapon. And so people said, oh, this is probably an animal skin that he's wearing, and this is all primordial, and they're chasing down a primitive type of antelope. And you can see in proportion here, they're showing the antelope to be much, much larger than one in reality is. In fact, the dog's much more in perspective, but they're showing here a picture that's in perspective somewhat, kind of like you can see the distance of things by, it looks like he's right behind him, but there's more distance than that as shown by the picture, where they're put close together, but they don't want to put the man 15 foot to your left where you have no conjunction together with the art. He's put up close like this. And so different depictions are showing, but one of the first hounds or dogs that is known to man is the Canine hound. And the name hound itself can be quite revealing. Hounds are dogs that have better sensory perception with their nose and aren't really a sight hunting dog, but they have the ability. Most hounds are, bloodhounds, things on that line, where they can scent people and chase them from that. But also, hounds are known to tree animals, and they hound them. Like you've heard the expression of somebody hound. Amy, don't hound me about that. Well, what does that expression come from? Well, it comes from the pack of dogs that would entrench the character. They would take antelope like this guy and try to circle him around and start biting at his heels and get him to tuck butt until that man got close enough to throw a death shot at him. And it really helped out ancient hunter-gatherers. Lord knows where we would be without the dogs that we've had throughout the millennium. And you've heard stories about snow dogs and things like that that saved people's lives, but I tell you, all of humanity may have been saved, especially after the big cataclysm that happened at the end of the last ice age, that all of mankind might have been saved due to their friendship with these animals that we know today as man's best friend. Now this picture here shows what looks like to be a more sleek dog. In fact, they're very greyhoundish looking. This one has a curly tail, the others do not. So you can see by depictions of them and how they show them as to what they're looking, but you can see they're in full stride too. And this is a depiction of the guy telling you how fast they're running. They are moving. Boom, boom, they are moving, Let's look at a few more pictures here, but Canine hounds is the origin of the word canine, which is the genus of dogs. And so it's where we get the name Canaan from, is Canaanites. And Egypt shows different dogs. Now this is an Egyptian dog. It's straightforward, the name. And these were saved from primordial time, but This Egyptian dog here is the icon of the dog Anubis. And the original Sphinx, though there's a lot of discrepancy about this, was actually a dog, Anubis. The depictions they show of Anubis with his tail curled against his body is, if you took the head off of the Sphinx, is exactly what it is. Now, the paws are said to look like paws of a lion. If you look close at a dog's paws, they have the knuckle over effect and the talons on the end that definitely look just the same way. And the Sphinx used to be Anubis, and then someone came in and retried to sculpt it into a pharaoh's head. And it looks like the entire top block was replaced, probably because they had done this more than once, perhaps, but at least once. Now, this Egyptian hound is a short hair they have from Egypt, and they have even a version that is almost hairless that they have from there. And again, whenever you see the depiction of Anubis lying out, he is in the Sphinx pose. And they show this, but they don't show lions doing this effect until much later. Now, we all know that in Leo, people were worshiping the lion in the zodiacal age of Leo, which would have been some 6,000 years ago, or 4,000 BC and past to 6,000 BC. And through the ages, they worship the different creatures that make an icon of that. And so everybody tries to date it back to Leo, and that does make some sense. But I tell you, this pose right here is very indicative of that Sphinx. And the telltale thing is this tail. How the tail is curled up against the leg, always in the depictions of the ancient pharaohs' tombs. Lions don't necessarily have this exact tail depiction, but these dogs do. They want to give the dog his tail and make it one part of it, and so to sculpt it all into it, they curl it against his body, not sticking out, not like a Canaanite hound curling over like a Basenji has nowadays, which is a direct relative of Canaanite hounds. So let's look at a few more. Now, this is your classic Basenji, and he's in his regal or stance pose, and you can see how his back legs are kicked and everything. He has this stature to him, but also look at that curled tail that you of course see. And if you look at this dog and you say that we miniaturize it, we end up giving it a genetic defect that midgets it. And if we midget it, this is a corgi, right? It's the same as a corgi. I've seen that exact same color. So you see a lot of that effect, where the Egyptian hound is really closer to a Doberman. Well, the Canaanite hound is that in-between dog. It's odd. It's bigger than this, more stout, larger, much larger, and its short-haired version, in a long-haired version, would be your golden retriever, but with a totally different disposition, of course. And there's some other breeding going on in there. But also from that Canaanite dog, you can find pit bulls and the whole range of those. Whenever the miniaturized version like this of hunting dogs is made or procured by man, they made such a variation of them. Most of those in the England and North through area there are known as the terriers, and they were work dogs, and they had a reason. Like the smallish terriers, like rat terriers, were made to kill off the rats, so they would try to end the plague. And so they didn't have cats as much back then, but dogs. And of course, dogs and cats don't get along, but Egypt had both, and they revered both, but dogs in a very special way. And it could be because they know of the relationship that dogs have with man. A different relationship than a cat, by far. So, let's see if we can look at another. Oop, I'm going to lose it there. The Basenji dog is a direct relative of Canaanite hounds. And you can see in that head structure, especially like you see over here, that has that Spuds and McKenzie type head on it too. It's just on how you breed them together. And a Spuds and McKenzie is kind of like a pit bull bred with a Basenji, and then procured as a solo dog from there. You have to keep procuring a breed and then breed them together, and then it stays as a locked breed. But of course, any breed can breed with others, and you get different markings where you get, like in this picture above my marker, where you get a brindle, you get a fawn, you get a black and white, and even down here you get a multicolored or a calico version of it, right? So let's look at now another dog that's bred during that time, of course, is a Saluki. And if you look at the Saluki, it's a longer-haired version of a greyhound. And they have an even longer, full-haired version, which is known as an Afghan hound. And it was kept up in the Afghan mountains and used as a protector up there. So variations on a theme of different types of dogs for different types of regions. But again, that has an extreme relative to this dog. And if you look at the Saluki and you look at it, they have the same appearance. One is a short hair, one is a long hair. I'm sure they have slight variations in their stoutness and their stature and things, but they have the same slunk chest and all that goes on even in Egyptian hounds. So you're getting variations on a theme here. Just like humans are variations on a theme, so are these dogs that are procured through genetically messing with them. And that, again, is probably a good reason that people look like that. So now, here's a good picture. And you can see that this is known as a Thailand Ridgeback. And what this is the Egyptian hound, kind of half-crossed with what would be a pit bull. And I don't know if you know about Rhodesia, but there's a Rhodesian Ridgeback. They also are in that Canaanite hound family. Anyhow, this is in dedication to a friend of mine who recently lost his good friend. I have had the same happen in my past. And so I wanted to show him, something. And of course I study ancient cultures and he's well aware of it. So just want to let him know the Egyptian dogs and the Canaanite hounds from the land of Canaan are the reason for the word canine in the first place. And they will be and continue to be and always have been man's best friend. Like, share, and subscribe, guys. Enjoy.